Monday, August 31st. Nick Kypreos here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. I hope everybody had a good weekend. From shutting down for 2 days to 3 games on the weekend on Saturday, 3 games Sunday has now set up this week. All teams in each series, at least one of them, facing elimination. And we got Doug Maclean waiting in the wings to wrap up exactly what we saw on the weekend, going into this Monday where we see the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning at 7 p.m., followed by the Stars and Avs. Who saw the Avs in a situation this early in the series staring at elimination? How about my set, by the way? Yeah, somebody was working on the weekend here, and how could I not? Have you seen what's going on with Doug Maclean and his background? The jerseys hung up. He was showing me up. That's exactly what was going on. I had to do something. So I got a few pucks. I got a shelf. I got my Stanley Cup up there. Yes, I've got one of those. Can you remember that far back? And I think I put some pressure on Doug Maclean. Up until now, I can see him out of the corner of my eye. He's getting ready to come on air. I think someone maybe whispered something to him because he felt some pressure. Because along with his 2 jerseys, I think I see a picture in the background, maybe a Panther emblem somewhere in the background. Clearly, he's feeling the heat off of my great work here on the Real Kyper at Noon headquarters, the studio. So here we are at the end of the month, August 31st. And how was August for you? We had puck drop August 1st. The month is over already. Was it a fast one for you? Did it go slow? Did it slow down with a 2-day break? Give us your comments. We see them coming in. We love them. Keep them coming. Keep those subscriptions coming. Hit the like button for us. That stuff goes a long way. Gives us confidence. Gives Doug Maclean a ton of confidence. But where are we? Just 48 hours ago, everybody was in the series. Every team. We're down to 8, but every team 48 hours ago felt like they were right in it. And we really had good reason to feel like everybody was in it. The youth and enthusiasm out of the Vancouver Canucks. Colorado, come on. We all felt like Colorado and Vegas were almost destined. We all felt like Colorado was a team that could easily go to the Stanley Cup final. How about the Boston Bruins? Did we not sit there 3 days ago and say, oh, this one's going 7? For sure, this one's going 7. Nope, not the case. And Philly? Okay. We know they got past the Montreal Canadiens, and we thought it was only a matter of time before that offense gets going. Ugh. So which one? Which team now facing elimination do you think has the best chance to come back, if not to a game 7, win the series? All right, let's bring in Doug Maclean now. We'll get his thoughts on which teams could come back, but more importantly, his thoughts on what he thinks of my set here.
Oh, it's impressive, but a little silver, buffing and silver. They're pretty tarnished. Where have they been in a closet for 10 years? I mean, you have to get the polish and clean them up a little bit, and brighten it up a little bit. And is that an old Northland stick there from when you were playing?
That is one of my original Shearwoods with the Washington Capitals.
And whose name was on it? Whose did you steal for a pattern?
So right now, the plan is to kind of expand one day. We gotta crawl before we walk before we run. But the whole idea is just to use more of the wall, more of the set. So right now you only got a couple of sticks showing, but I've got 6 in total. So the red one's mine. That one's an original from 1989, my first year with you and David Poyle and Brian Murray. And then I go into a Brian Leach Easton from 1994. And then I work it towards the corner of the wall. I've got a Wendell Clark. These are wood sticks here, folks. None of this crap that we see today.
It's unbelievable.
And then who do I have? I got on the other wall, I've got Lindros Bauer Supreme. This thing is like a tree trunk. If you can only imagine Eric Lindros in his prime carrying this thing around, like when you got cross-checked from Eric Lindros with that stick, you were in big trouble. And then the last one, or the one in the middle, is a Mario Lemieux, and it's a Coho. And I remember getting his stick, and it was the year, Mac. Do you remember this, where there was a licensing issue, and the manufacturers were not paying the league a certain fee that they wanted, and maybe it was a bump up that was ridiculous at the time, or they thought it was ridiculous at the time.
Yep.
So we all had to strip our sticks down before we played.
Totally. Or cover them.
Cover
the logos. Yeah.
What a pain in the ass this was. And then you've got all that varnish and that turpentine, and it just stunk the whole room up. We were like having these headaches before we went out there and played because everybody was too busy trying to get the paint job off their stick coming from the factory. What a horrible. And anyways, no label on Mario Lemieux stick, just his autograph.
I wanted to bring my Eric Lindros autograph stick in, but let me tell you the story. When I was in Detroit, and Clark was a kid, Jill said to me, like, why, you're around all these superstars. Why don't you get autograph sticks for your kid? So we had Fedorov and Yzerman and Cicerelli, and then, Lemieux would come into town, and Yager. And so Clark has this unbelievable, amazing stick collection. But I wanted to bring the Lindros one in, but tell Eric next time you see him when you're playing shinny with him, hockey, tell him that I wanted to bring it in, but Jill took it and made it into a curtain rod because it was so heavy. It is now the curtain rod in Clark's bedroom. An Eric Lindros stick as a curtain rod. How cool is that?
At least it's functional, okay? I'd come home and I'd have sticks from Mario also and a few other stars. And my dad is growing tomatoes in the garden with them, cut in half. Oh, my dad, that stick today might have been worth $3,000.
But what about me as a GM when I'd be watching, sitting up in my box and watching these guys going off the ice, giving their sticks away? And I'm saying to the coach, they're $400 a stick. What the hell are they doing giving them away? I mean, we can't afford that. Anyway, being cheap as a GM. Anyhow,
I think
it looks good. The set looks good. It's a vast improvement. I embarrassed you.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm going to keep dabbling in mine. But I had one of our, when we opened it up for Q&A, I was looking at some of the comments on the weekend. And this one fan said, somebody has got to help Mac. He's got white glasses on. He's got white hair, and he's got a white wall behind him. Can we not darken him up? Can we not make him look a little better? He looks just too pale. So I went with the blue shirt, the blue glasses, and I got the baseball cap on just to mix it up for just reacting to our fan base,
And you want to mention the golf course on the hat, just in case you can get a free green fee?
It is Cabot Links Golf Course in Cape Breton, which is one of the top 7 courses in the world. And I went over and played there last year, 2 couples. What an amazing spot. So
there it is,
I just pulled
folks.
the hat out because I am going to be making another trip over there in early October before we head back south.
So we really hope, if you're watching, Cabin, that we can avoid the $350 green fee for Doug Maclean, or else he's going to have to sell a curtain hanger hockey stick.
You know what? I know that's not going to happen because our good friend John Shannon has always tried to get on free by promoting them, and they've never given him a penny off. So I think that's out the window. Anyway.
All right, are we going to talk hockey at all, or are we going to just do decorations?
I want to just touch on this picture here. This is a picture that was taken in 1996 when with the Panthers, they had a fan appreciation night at a Miami arena, and I was giving the final speech, just thanking the fans, and the team was on stage, and Eddie Jovanovski and Rhett Warner come up behind me and drenched me with that ice bucket. Ruined, by the way, a good suit. And that, you see Jovanovski and Warner, you probably can't see them in there, two rookies under the orders of Brian Scrudelin to do that to me. So it really made for a nice finish to the evening. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that in. Just a little history.
So if the order didn't come from your team captain, would that have really gotten the rookies in trouble?
Oh no, that they love doing it. Tell me, Jovo and Rhett Warner love doing that to me. I remember when I threatened Rhett Warner, I was going to send him to the minors a year earlier or 6 months earlier, and he started to cry in my office. So I was a proud moment making Rhett Warner cry. Now Rhett would make me cry because he'd grab a hold of me.
What can you do about the Boston Bruins? I know you hung up a jersey. We see the Orr jersey. Is that going to be enough to get them back in the series?
I said it at the time, Nick, when Tuukka Rask left. How many teams win a Stanley Cup with a backup goaltender? We're seeing it with a few teams right now, but Halak, as good as he's been, amazing numbers he's had, as good a backup as he is, he hasn't matched Vasilevsky, and that's only one area that the Bruins have been let down. Corrali being out, who I'm a big fan of. It just changes their bottom six dramatically. They're not good enough in the bottom six without him. I'm worried about the Bruins.
Let's do a process of elimination here, because I don't. What's left is 8 teams, and it seems all of them are with backup goalies now.
Oh my God!
Somebody's going to have to win with a backup goalie. Hudobin, Halak, Talbot, Elliott. I mean, when you look at the playoffs and where they've gone,
think of this.
Do you even need a number one goalie anymore?
Look, we've been preaching for at least 3 years or 4 years the critical importance of a backup just to make the playoffs. That's to make the playoffs. Because when you look back in NHL history, how many backups even play in the playoffs? But because of this bubble situation, and because of back-to-back games, and because of fatigue from the foolish play-in round and the foolish round-robin round and the bubble scenario, now we need backups. So the biggest game in Philadelphia in their year was last night, and the Islanders with a big game. And both of them really have to play their backups because of fatigue. But this is crazy.
But Elliott's not the reason why they're down 3-1 now.
No. But you know what?
Got to give him that.
But your number one can sometimes steal you a game. He can sometimes steal you a game.
And Grace, I think
Grace was good.
You can make the argument that Grace stole the game Philly had for the first time legitimate chances that they could have won the game. And I know that might have felt better for Flyer fans if it was game 1, but not in game 4. Like there are no moral victories for the Philadelphia Flyers, that they played well. And Alain Vigneault now is in the position, Mac, where he has to talk about the positives, because what's left? Just ripping on your star players for not putting the puck in the net. That's his only other option.
We've been talking about the star players since game 1 against Montreal, or game 2 against Montreal. This is unbelievable how they've disappeared on them. I mean, he's tried everything. He's put them together, broke them up, mixed up the top line, and he's getting limited support. Now, the Islanders defend like nobody's business. I'm telling you, Pelech, Polak, Mayfair, Taves, that back end has played so well, not to mention Leddy, Green. That back end has been good, but their attention to detail in the neutral zone defensively is over the top. So you can get away with your backup with the Islanders, but you need your number one guy to win games for you at playoff time.
Wow.
And the fact you have to start backups, and look what happened in Markstrom last night. I mean, this guy is burnt out, okay? Burnt out, in my opinion. he has a tough night, especially in the third. He's fatigued. I mean, the guy has played his tail off. He's been their MVP. So anyway, we'll see what happens. And now we haven't even got to.
No, hold on.
I'm going to joke. We haven't even got to Francouz yet.
Hold on. We'll stay with the goaltending theme here because you watch the way things are going, and I look at Carey Price, and let's look at Bobrovsky, two highest paid goalies in the league. Two goalies that are home watching the games like us now. And we know Bobrovsky underperformed to the point where if I'm a general manager, I'd be scared to death to ever pay a goalie $10 million again. And then you've got Carey Price, who you could argue was at his best and worth $10.5 million, except for one small thing. He can't get them out of the first round. So now you've got a goalie that's playing at a certain level and one that doesn't. And at the end of the day, they're still both home watching games. So why would I ever spend $10 million on another goalie ever again?
No, don't spend 10, but let's not forget Price's team, in my opinion, isn't good enough to win a round. When you've got to depend on Suzuki and Kokoniemi to be your best players, essentially, we know Weber and Petrie were good in the back end and Sherratt, but I mean, come on, that team isn't good enough yet to win for Price. And Hart, the number one goalie for Philadelphia, had a hell of a series. A couple off nights, but overall a real good series. And Florida's team is not good enough. I know Bobrovsky wasn't good, but Florida's not good enough either to win.
I'm not debating on whether or not Carter Hart could be the next Price. I'm just not sure, Mac, if it'll ever be to the point where he can be the highest paid player on your team. No, because Carey Price is great, but because Carey Price is at a certain range, it means that you can't add better players. You're just going to have to wait for Suzuki and Kokoniemi and all these guys to become frontline guys, but that still may take 2 or 3 years.
Although Montreal really do have cap space and they're waiting to make, I think, some big additions. But my point being here, you need your number one guy on top of his game to advance in the playoffs. You can't win. And I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. If you think you're going to win a Stanley Cup or depend now, I hope Khudobin could be the first. I guess he has a chance the way his team's playing in front of him and the way he's playing. I just don't think can you imagine what was going through Vigneault's head last night, having to go with his backup? And I love Elliott. He's been a great pro. He's been a great player, but come on. This is a must win. Well, and your number one guy is
but he has played well, Mac, and he's not your Elliott. I don't put Elliott in the same category I would other goalies. He's a pro. He's played big games before. He's played well for them. I thought he was very solid. I didn't like the Pajot goal. I did not like it. This time of year, you can't let in a bad goal. I thought that was a bad goal. It went through him. It should never have gone through him. But other than that, I can't find too many faults in him. And when I don't get support offensively, then
I agree.
It's very difficult.
I agree.
I'm okay with Elliott.
Here's what, if I'm Chuck Fletcher or Vigneault, and I'm looking at my top players, number one, who haven't performed. I mean, Drew, one goal in his last 26 playoff games? Does that make any sense to you?
It does not.
And then you look at the lack of physical play by this group. They don't play fast. They play a slow. And I mean, I like the Flyers coming in. I haven't liked them hardly in any game against Montreal, and against the Islanders. To me, it hasn't been close. I'm sorry, it has not been close between these two teams. I look at Anders Lee. I look at Nelson. I look at Bailey. I look at Pajot. What a pickup Pajot was, by the way. I mean, I look at this group and, the way they have played so hard. I haven't even mentioned Barzal and Beauvillier and Eberle. I mean, it hasn't been close for me.
They do get a bad rap for being a dump and chase team, but they come with speed and they can make plays. Mayfield to Bailey, and Bailey with that beautiful pass to Nelson. And that's a big time goal that broke Philly's back pretty much.
You know, the guy I'm impressed with too is we saw Eberle in Edmonton and, you know, left there. And this guy has become a real important player for this Islander team because you just said it. He's a playmaker and he's making plays. And then you got Anders Lee. I'm thinking, I really was trying to figure out, Anders Lee is a 7th round pick. 7th round pick. This guy was Mr. Minnesota football when he was in high school, okay? Mr. Minnesota football. He was also a great hockey player, and he was also an unbelievable catcher in baseball, okay? He goes to Notre Dame to play hockey. The quarterback of the University of Notre Dame gets injured, and he's playing on the hockey team, and they go to him asking him, would he be a walk-on with the Notre Dame football team and consider being their quarterback? That's how amazing an athlete this guy is. It's a great story about a natural athlete who is a 7th round hockey pick in the amateur draft and has become a star and one of the most important players on the New York Islanders. I just think it's amazing to hear these stories about young players. You know,
they've got some really good stories. Lou Lamoriello's pickup of Pajot. When you look at guys that start earning big reputations in the playoffs, this guy's right there right now with modern players in the NHL because he was so valuable a few years ago to the Ottawa Senators where they got within a goal of going to a Stanley Cup final. He just looks like he's having the most fun out there. And he gave Lou Lamoriello gave up a hefty price. I think it was a first rounder and a second and maybe even a conditional pick. Like, it was not cheap. These players are not cheap. You can go to Barclay Goodrow as well and Coleman in Tampa Bay. Those are expensive pieces, Mac, when we're talking about first and second rounders, yet they're paying off for both those clubs.
I mean, Pajot with his 7th goal of the playoffs last night, 7th goal. Now, the leading scorer in the playoffs, I believe, is Horvat with 9 goals, and he's got 7, and he's a third liner. But we go back to the Leafs for 1 second. Digress to the Leafs, I should say, using Kyle Dubas language. I'm going to like to digress here. Third line centers are unbelievably important at playoff time. Unbelievably important. And we're seeing it all across the league on the teams that are winning. That third line center, Rope, Hintz. You see the big plays these guys make. So, you know what? Pajot, big price, you're right. But he's always been a big player for a smaller guy. And it looks good. But one other thing, and I read Larry Brooks on the weekend. Let's not forget about the credit Garth Snow deserves in building this Islander team. Do you know how many of those players on that hockey team were acquired by the former GM, Garth Snow? A ton of them. Drafted, traded, and brought in there by Garth Snow. So it's a combination of Lamoriello and Snow. Yeah. And Larry Brooks wrote about it this weekend in a great article, I thought.
Okay, keep in mind, though, 2 weeks ago, people were giving Ron Hextall a lot of credit in Philadelphia. I don't.
Yeah, no,
just kidding. They're still a good team. They're snake bitten, but they're a good team.
Yeah, they are.
One note on the Islanders too, Beauvillier.
Oh,
how about the puck off the wall and the redirect with his skate to start that breakout? That was, as a winger, my whole career, Mac. And how many pucks in 1989 did you ring around the boards for me to take off and try to make a good sound play on a breakout? And to watch what he did with his skate and turn it 200 feet was spectacular.
I'll tell you why I used to ring pucks off the boards to you. Number one, because you had a little bit of trouble getting the puck off the boards. But number two, I had tried working on crossovers with you on the circles, and you couldn't do that. So I said, okay, that's a waste of time. Let's just work on the board play.
No, just dump it in the corner, and I'll freight train myself in there.
That's
Stick
right.
to what you do best.
That's right.
Okay?
Exactly.
And by the way, Dale Hunter told me you were the worst passer out of the corner he ever had as a coach.
I know. Well,
I know.
You know what?
That's the best you can do. I know.
Listen, I remember in Detroit post-practice working on skills with players when I was a coach in Detroit. And two guys I had working on doing crossovers on the circle were Troy Crowder, who was a great fighter and an average player, and Keith Primo. Keith Primo as an 18-year-old, and we worked every practice on crossovers. And I remember Stevie Y saying, "You're wasting your time. This guy will never be a player." I said, "Who won't be?" He said, "Primo will never be a player." Well, he had a pretty good 15-year run.
The main reason why you got out of coaching is because it went to the Mohawk turn was over. Now it's 10-2 around the net, Crosby like. You can't teach anybody that.
Look, the boys used to be excited when I could shoot the duck. Explain to your fans what shoot the duck is,
Yes, it's when you skate and you go down in your squat and you stick your leg out.
Exactly, and I could do the shoot the duck for fun. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that wanted to shoot the duck.
Now I can't even bend down to read my putts.
Somebody else is tying your skates now. So when we look at teams that are down 3-1, and we got Vancouver, Boston, Colorado, Philly, do we think Vancouver, with their youth and enthusiasm and the top scorer in Bo Horvat and a rebound game by Markstrom, could get them back in the series? Or do we lend it towards maybe the perfection line with the Boston Bruins coming back and making it a series against Tampa Bay? When you look at all four teams down 3-1, who's got the best chance to come back?
Colorado has the best chance, because I think, I look at their game and I say, okay, they gave up 4 power play goals last night. One of them with 2 seconds left in a power play. If Francouz can make a save,
well,
that's a question mark. They love this guy as a goaltender. He's a 30-year-old who's played 42 NHL games.
How?
And they love him. And I'm thinking, okay, if you love him, he's got to love you back a little bit. So can he rebound? I mean, to me, I think Colorado have played well enough. But how, Nick, do you start a damn playoff game and you don't get one shot in the first period? You're down 2-1, and you don't get a damn shot till there's 1:34 left in the first period, and you're trying to sell that you're trying to win. Like, I couldn't believe that, how bad they were. And they got on their heels because of the power play goals and the quick start by Dallas. But I'm telling you, I think Colorado has the best chance to come back. I do.
Kind of lack of confidence you have in Michael Hutchinson that you don't pull Francouz down 3-0 with the rebounds he gave up?
Look, Michael Hutchinson's had a really good career as a backup, and he's battled hard and up and down and all over the place. And great story. But if they have to go to Michael Hutchinson, then I take back what I just said. They have no chance to win.
Are we not?
I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Michael goes in. But I do not see Michael Hutchinson starting that game. But did you hear the players in their post-game talks last night? They were saying, our goaltenders, Francouz and Hutchinson. Hutchinson started to be mentioned. So, but Grubauer lost, seriously. They're a better team than what I'm watching, aren't they? Come on.
They are. Come on. But we've got to start really giving Dallas more credit. Oh. And you mentioned the role players now stepping up, and it's clear up front that in many ways it's almost as if it's just not Ben and Seguin anymore, that we are mentioning names that are starting to become household names in the playoffs, which is great for that organization. But Mac, I just watched that blue line, and Klingberg has shown me so much. I'm not sure where he stands with you, but I watch his goal, and he's starting it on his own. He's got the puck on his own goal line, and He's turned into, for me, a real solid two-way player that can play any way you want. They've dished it out. I'm telling you, I watched Kadri take runs at him, and you can't break this guy.
Well,
he's been that good.
Well, you've got Klingberg, who's been terrific. I believe he's a third-round pick. You've got Lindell, who's been terrific, who's a later pick. You've got Jamie, his sister's a skater. Or a swimmer, I should say.
No. Yes, Jamie Alexiak.
Jamie, his sister's a great swimmer.
Get your Olympic sports straight, would ya?
Yeah. Well, I'm just can't pronounce his last name. And then you've got Heiskanen, and people are talking about Heiskanen's game creating. What's he got? 12 points or something in the playoffs so far? 16 points he's got in the playoffs already, Heiskanen. 16 points he's got. And as Rick Bowness says, yeah, he's getting offense for us, but what about what he does getting the puck out of our end? What about what Heiskanen does getting us out of trouble on our own? This defense, as you just said, has been unbelievably good, and they are big and they are strong, and they pound the puck at the net, and their big body forwards are going hard to the net and causing Francouz all kinds of problems in the paint. And Colorado defenders, they've done a horrible job defending the front of their net. They've got to be better than that to have any chance to win. And you're right on. Dallas have played exceptionally well, and you know what? I'm happy for Rick Bowness. I'm really happy for Rick.
We talked about Vancouver and what they've gone on. Tremendous goaltending in Markstrom. You touched on that earlier. The other factor is here, Mac, and it's been a bit of our theme coming into this show, and we talked about on the cover of today's show is whether or not Vancouver can crawl their way back. And I watched Quinn Hughes last night, and I'm a big body language guy. You watch someone on the bench, you watch the way they change on and off the ice, and then there were a couple shots on Hockey Night in Canada where they show him in the dressing room, and I don't know the kid well enough to say, well, that's just the way he is, right? That's just his demeanor. But I looked at a guy that at times looked a little overwhelmed and at times apprehensive on the ice. And I can only imagine when I hear the sound of a freight train coming at me in Ryan Reeves, and I weigh all but maybe $170, maybe right now. I don't necessarily blame the kid if he gets a little nervous out there watching these guys run him time and time again.
Well,
we've seen Washington, we've seen St. Louis win the cup the last few years, and it was a constant pounding from the third and fourth line, relentless. And I'm watching a Quinn Hughes right now that's having a lot of trouble handling that out of Vegas.
Well, look, if you're coaching against the Vancouver Canucks, your game plan is Myers is out. Your game plan is number one focus going into the series is we got to go after Quinn Hughes. We've got to nullify Quinn Hughes. We've got to take him off his game, and we've got to nullify Tanev and Edler. Myers is already out. And the one thing that they have done an exceptional job on Quinn Hughes. He made a great play last night on the goal. Great rush, great give and go, great play by Quinn Hughes.
Always when there's a situation where he could skate up with the ice, he's going to look like a star.
And Quinn Hughes will be a star. Quinn Hughes has a chance to be a franchise player. We've talked about that. But for a youngster going against a veteran team and a heavy team like Las Vegas, with the way they pound and the way they forecheck, especially when that's drilled into their heads that he's the number one guy on the back end that they have to stop. That's a tough challenge for a kid. And Vegas have done a very good job of it. They're a heavy team, and they mean business. And they won't quit. They get trailed last night going into third. They came out, and they were hungry. They don't stop for 60 minutes.
I didn't see. I never saw. Even when they went down, I never saw a team waver. They were the better team, Mac,
Yeah,
the whole night,
they were.
in my opinion.
They've been a good team every night since the start of the round robin. They're on a mission. This is a tough task for Vancouver. You know what? I thought Vancouver played pretty well last night. They started to shoot the puck more. Instead of being cute, they got it to the net. You know, their big guys contributed offensively. Miller was good. Pettersson was good. Horvat was good. But you know what? This is a tough task for a young team. Big time.
It kind of gives you the sense of how good Markstrom has been all season long, especially in the playoffs. But when you see, again, his body language, and I'll even go back to the Pacioretty goal, the power play goal off the top of the circles. And Pacioretty had a game that you expect when you're paid $7 million to create offense. But that his first goal should never have gone in, right?
No.
It's not like he went top shelf and you got beat by a great shot. And Markstrom was pissed off at himself on that goal. He was pissed off on the Nate Schmidt goal. And when you start really showing the whole hockey world that I should have stopped it and I'm not, then to your point, is it fatigue? Is it lack of focus? Is it he's too tired? Is he back to back?
I mean,
now it takes a lot out of Vancouver to watch your goalie. He had a great comment in his post-game reaction after the game when someone said, "Would you like a few goals back?" And he's like, "I want all of them back."
I love this kid. And, you know, we forget this is a kid that was a second-round pick of the Florida Panthers who was traded to Vancouver, who Florida gave up on. How much would they like to have him right now and not have the $10 million tied up in him? But you know what? He's gone against heavy teams. Minnesota were a heavy team that crashed the net constantly. St. Louis, a heavy team that bangs and crashes at the net. Vegas, another team that goes hard to the paint. In fairness to him, he has been their MVP all year and also in the playoffs. But the one thing we haven't mentioned yet about the game was how good is Fleury, as somebody said last night, some smart ass said last night, how good is Fleury with a knife out of his back? But how good? I mean, this guy comes in. What about the glove save he makes? You know, how good was it for Fleury? I mean, I'm cheering. I'm sorry. I'm cheering for the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm cheering. I really would like to see them win. With all due respect to our great friend Gary Lawless, who we know is a loyal listener, but I'm cheering for Vancouver, and I was cheering for Fleury last night. How great a story was that?
We do know, as we said, and it's been well noted, you know where I stand, that people want to blame Walsh. You want to blame Walsh. We know who.
I don't.
We know who put that tweet out. It was Marc-Andre Fleury. We know that. Okay? So for him now to back up that tweet where he put his stamp of approval on before it went out speaks volumes for him on A, what he believes, and two, he's got the game to back it up. And Mac, we don't know what's going to happen. Leonard could get the net back and ride Vegas right to a Stanley Cup. And that is quite possible. But we also know that Fleury's a damn good goalie. And he proved it last night.
You think about coming in goal with, what is it? I don't know. Was it 18 days or something since he played his last game? And he admitted he was a little rusty and he felt better in the second. Then the third, he was on his game. And then he makes this friggin' unbelievable glove save, you know, at a game saving time. The players were excited for him. Leonard, this isn't about Leonard. Leonard's a good kid. Apparently he's overcome some unbelievable adversity. He deserves everything he gets. But it was just a great night to cheer for Fleury. And whether he tweeted it or not, it was great for all he's done.
What do you mean or not? I'm telling you that he knew.
Oh, I know he knew.
Okay, then what's the...
It's like me. I know all the tweets I send out, but they're usually in my name.
Listen, Fleury pays Alan Walsh a lot of money, including to take the blame.
What he's paying Alan Walsh, he should tweet for him as well, and do a lot of other things probably for him as well.
The tweet has not hurt him at all. That's the bottom line. He gets to say, It's like me and you, we weren't born to have our cake and eat it too. There's some that get to do it all. And Fleury right now is a guy that wanted his feelings known, and then he's got the game to back it up. So in all of this, Mac, if Vegas ends up winning the Cup, maybe the biggest winner out of this would be Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee for making the decision to go get Leonard. And while other teams, and you just noted, are faltering with their backup situation and leaving their teams vulnerable, they went the other way. And whether or not...
Good full marks to them.
Whether or not how you feel about where this stories lie, and I certainly said that, for the record, I thought Marc-Andre Fleury didn't deserve his net taken away from him, opposed to losing it. The bottom line is it looks good on Vegas right now that they have two great qualified goaltenders, and whether it's an injury or a coach's decision, doesn't matter. They're covered. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, full marks to Kelly, George on the transaction. The downside of that is Fleury's owed 2 more years at $7 million.
I don't think they give a shit.
Restricted free agent.
Who cares?
Nobody
the cup.
Cares.
Win the cup.
I agree.
Cup or bust. You know what they're gonna, if they don't win the cup, Mac, or if they lose in the final in game 6 or game 7, this will come back in their face. But you win it, and nobody can say squat.
No, hey, who cares? And you know what? You'll worry about that in July, or I should say in November, or whenever before next season. But this was a great move, and you've got to have competent goaltending if you're going to win. But just clarify one thing. I just had somebody send me a note that they said, with my hat and glasses on, I remind them of Scott Oak. Is it because of the knowledgeable? Is it because of the knowledgeable things I'm saying, or is it because of my appearance? What would remind people that I remind them of Scott Oak?
Scott loves the ball cap too. He loves the ball cap. That's all it is.
I know. Okay, just a little tidbit for you.
And are you okay with that? Are you suggesting that Scott's not a good-looking guy and you're insulted by that? Is that what you're trying to say?
I have tremendous respect for Scott, but he is quite a bit older than I am, I think.
I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. I want to touch a little bit on the commitment to get a Max Pacioretty and pay him $7 million. There's no question that that's the possible going rate for $7 million goalies, or scorers, I mean, or too much on the goalie discussion. But I watched last night, and it's a perfect fit for him. And when you came off the captaincy in Montreal, where clearly he was over his head, and I don't mean that to disrespect him, it's just it was never a good fit, Mac. The captaincy, being the spokesperson, the leader, it just seems much like, I always refer to this, Mac, because it's the perfect example of guys like Max Pacioretty. They got to find the right fit. And Phil Kessel was the prime example of that in Pittsburgh. And it just seems right now, with so many other go-to guys, and the real leader for me, watching whether he's making amazing plays or not, is Mark Stone. Yeah. That guy is a real player, both ends of the ice. You notice him when he's making great plays that lead to goals. You notice him on back checks, stripping pucks away. But it just seems Max Pacioretty right now, with a core group of guys around him, is just a nice fit.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head. To me, Max Pacioretty is not a guy you build a franchise around. He is, and Kessel is a prime example. You don't build franchise around him, but they can come in and be complementary pieces. It's like you build your forward group around Mark Stone, and you build your defense group around Shea Theodore. This was an expansion pickup. So you build it around Stone up front, and to me, he is the glue guy there. I know Marchessault's important. I know Carlson's important. I know Stastny's important.
Smith.
But Stone, since he's come into Vegas, to me, they've played a little bit different. He's have a Theodore on the back end. He's a guy you build your. Somebody mentioned last night, this guy's going to be in the Norris Trophy conversation soon. This guy's got 16 points or something in the playoffs already. I mean, he's been 14 points he's got in the playoffs. This guy's been unbelievable for them on the back end. And their defense was a big difference in the third period last night. That blue line, they activate, they defend. I didn't think they were a Stanley Cup blue line, Nick. I didn't think they were a Stanley Cup blue line.
I think it's still the biggest question mark is on how that blue line will look 2 or 3 weeks from now. Because there is a tendency, Mac, to blow the zone. There's a tendency to leave 1 or 2 Vancouver Canucks behind you. And that was the case, I think, on the redirect of Horvat. But overall, pretty solid. But that, to me, you said it, I think, 2 weeks ago. That's the one question mark still is if they can truly defend enough to win 16 games.
Now, your goaltending certainly helps that. But, like last night, they take Holden out, and they make a change, It was a pretty good move. Good blue line performance by Vegas last night.
And a good performance by you, Doug Maclean, so far on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Keep those comments coming. We appreciate the subscriptions as well. We see that number growing, and hit the like button if you like Mac's hat or if you want to get rid of it. Do not look like Scott Oak. That look has been done before. Get away from it. Please let Mac know.
Scott Oak will be thrilled that I have been compared to how he looks. That will be an unbelievable compliment for Scott Oak, eh?
Well, Scott just wears it because he likes it. Scott's not looking for a $350 free green fee.
And plus, I have better hair than Scott Oak.
Now you're getting personal.
Unbelievable. Bad. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Mac, do you think when we look back in the second round, we can sit there and say the 2-day break affected certain players or certain teams? Because I said prior to start this show, it just seemed like everybody was right into it 48 hours ago. And now it just seemed, for whatever reason, that it just seems like the rhythm is off on it. And could 2 days have done that?
I would have thought that the 2 days would have helped some teams. And I would have thought it would have helped a Markstrom, for instance, or a Vancouver, for instance, or some teams that are up against really stiff competition. I would have thought it might have helped the Boston Bruins, but to me, look, nobody can tell me that this bubble isn't continually putting an asterisk around this Stanley Cup playoff. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who wants to rip me. What is going on in there? The challenges that these guys are facing, where you got your kids outside the fence waving at you. In Toronto this weekend, a couple of their kids and wives showed up and were waving through the fence. I'm thinking, oh my God, how tough is this on this group of players and coaches? And I'm sorry, I think it's really, we're underestimating how tough it is on the players and management.
I said earlier,
the media, I could care less if it's tough on them, but
I said early in the first round that I didn't buy into the asterisk argument. Yeah. But then
when you watch games, what are you thinking?
Tuukka changed it for me a little bit. that he just said, no, not for me. I'm out. And Boston Bruins were Stanley Cup favorites coming out of this. They were a team that people believed that were ready, and they were built for this time of year. And it was going to be Tuukka that led the charge. That changed a lot. And then the 2-day break changed a lot on back-to-backs and who had the pressure to play their goalies and who didn't.
So, look, to me, I don't know how much it's affecting people. I have no idea. But to me, when have we watched 3-0 leads disappear like it's February? I mean, you get a 3-0 lead in a regular Stanley Cup playoff game, they don't come back from 3-0. We've seen it happen how many times? 2-0, 3-0, 4-1, score 5 unanswered goals, 6 unanswered goals. Like, are you kidding me that this is not different from regular playoff hockey? I'm sorry. And look, I know it's the best we could do. I applaud the NHL and the players, but don't tell me this isn't different. I'm not buying it. Just hit the like button if you like that. And if you love it, pound it.
Pound it. Love it for Doug Maclean. Just one note on the Colorado. Did you see any comparisons to Cale Makar's hiccup behind the net that led to the empty net goal to Steve Smith of the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames back in 1986? I said, visually, it does. Yeah. But I look at it and I go, 86 was game 7. I think the score was tied 2-2. Not Colorado trailing by 2 goals when Makar ended up doing it. But I get the visual of it, but I don't get any sense that this could even compare.
No, to me, it's not a comparable because of what's at stake. Although you could say that loss last night maybe could eliminate this team. But Makar has been such a star. He's been such an important player for them. He's emerged as one of the top, 3-4 best young future stars in the NHL. So that was a tough break. And for Fran Coos, like, imagine what's going through his head when that pops in on him after the night he had. Tough night. Felt for them.
Okay, so if some believe that was a turning point and could be in the series, do we look back at Nick Ritchie's hit on Yannick Gourde and go, that one is the one that turned everything in Tampa Bay's favor, and that's where the Boston Bruins lost this series, or lost control of the series?
Ritchie,
what did you think of the hit, first of all? Because it was vicious, and your first thought was, when a guy goes into the boards like that, something's wrong.
I thought it was a bad hit. I know it maybe didn't deserve a suspension. Maybe it didn't, but I didn't like it one bit. A guy that's that far from the boards, a guy that releases the puck. It was a dumb play. And a critical time, put his team in a bind. They've tried Ritchie every which way in Boston to try and make it work for him. It hasn't worked there. I didn't like the play at all. And Gourde has been just a spectacular player for Tampa Bay. Like, I mean, without Gourde, they do not get by maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets. His line with the 2 guys you mentioned, Coleman, and I mean, they couldn't have got by
Anthony Cirelli.
Yeah, they couldn't have got by that series. So, the big pickups from San Jose and with Coleman. But Ritchie, that was a bad mistake.
They've taken Tampa Bay and they've taken Cooper's ability to coach to another level because of the depth. But I found it interesting in the dying moments of that game that, Cooper also rewards Kucherov for being on the last minute. And he made actually a really good play on Pasternak. He gets pucks out Mac, this guy arguably every game is the most talented player on the ice, but I would imagine he would have drove you nuts as a coach.
He drove me nuts in the Columbus series, and watching him. I mean, at times he looked disinterested. We know how talented he is, but he as the playoffs have progressed, like, how do you play with Braden Point and not want to go through the wall every shift for this guy? For what Braden Point brings to the table. I mean, this guy has become a star in the NHL. He does it every night. And Kucherov, I mean, Stamkos and him have been terrific to watch over the years. And Kucherov has been, with them so much. I just wish he'd play a little harder. But he's a talent.
They're rolling right now, and he is playing hard.
Yep.
So
yeah, big time.
It's up to Cooper, I guess,
I think Point's gotten through to him.
That train going. When we look at Point and Cirelli, I think they're third-round picks, Mac. Now, you can look at first-round picks, and some pick grade at 8 to 12 to 15 overall. But you're really dealing as a general manager and a president, Mac, is a process of elimination when you're talking about certain guys in the first round. But once you get in the second and third round, then that takes some real skill, does it not?
Well, what happens when you get to the second and third round, when you come to your pick at the table, you're typically staring at 5 names that you have circled. You know who's the number guy. You know who is the guy that, according to your 1 to 100 list, that is the guy that's next on that list, and he's the guy you've made up your mind to take. But there's always a group of guys in that mix. It might be 3 guys, it might be 4 guys, it might be 5 guys that are still available that you're saying, oh, all of a sudden we thought he'd be gone. Oh, we love this guy. These are good picks. These are really picks. And it's shocking how many second, third, fourth round picks actually play in the NHL. How many 7th round picks have gone on to become stars in the NHL? It is just the draft. The draft is unbelievable. If you hit at 50%, that is way above what the average general manager does on your picks. It's when you go back in the last 10 or 15 years and look at every draft and you go, oh my God, are you kidding me? He was taken there? Are you kidding me? He was taken there? I have a lot of people, unfortunately, that go back and look at drafts. I'd rather they didn't go back and look at some drafts, but they seem to remind me of it. By the way, I want to set the record straight. I did not draft Filatov in Columbus. That's Scott Housen. He gets credit for Filatov. I was gone then.
Who should you take all the heat for then in Columbus if it's not Filatov?
I never touched. I was long gone. I should get credit for taking Chris Russell in the 3rd round. I should get credit for taking Adam McQuaid in the 2nd round. I should get credit for taking who was the kid? Mathod in the 5th or 6th round. I mean, there's give credit for those. Forget a couple of those first-round picks. Forget them.
And how many of those draft picks did you have to hire a detective to follow around?
Off-duty detectives. Yeah.
There's a few listeners on this show that don't know that story, I believe. You want to share that, or are we going to save it for another day?
Oh, we'll save that one for another day. We don't want to spoil them.
Save it.
If they hit, the only quickly it was
no. Save it.
Okay,
save it.
Oh, we gotta tease them. They got. I think we'll do that.
We'll save it.
September 17th
because we're coming up to the end.
Save the
date. We're coming up
Yeah.
to the end. We'll save that. We'll save that for later on in this week. I will get it out this week.
I'm getting sick of my stories, by the way.
No, I'm not, because they're hilarious. And in 2020, you would never get away with that. Ever, what you did. But we'll get into that later on in the week. Just one note on the whole goaltending thing. It's funny that we're talking about backups and back-to-backs, and yet Vasilevsky just all quiet, no problem. Cooper, no problem. Just go to my number 1 guy.
You want to believe it. And to think back in that Columbus game where Korpisalo and he battled through 8 periods to watch the focus on Vasilevsky. Everybody talked about Korpisalo's game because it was spectacular with 88 saves.
Yeah.
But how good was Vasilevsky in that game and the focus? I mean, this kid's a superstar. He's a superstar.
Okay, my last point on goaltenders. Have you ever seen an coming off season that will involve so many unrestricted good goalies? If it's not a 1B, but now you look at Markstrom and Vancouver, and I'll tell you something, Mac. I don't know why they were so apprehensive to sign Markstrom when they could, because all that's happened is the price of poker keeps going up in Vancouver for Markstrom. And I hear that this guy likes it there. He wants to stay there. He will give them a discount. I just don't know how big he can discount them now. And then you got Leonard, 2 number 1 goalies battling it out in this series, and both could easily be gone next year. I've never seen it before.
And you haven't mentioned Holtby yet, and you haven't mentioned some others that are, it is a big franchises could turn their teams around with the addition of 1 or 2 or 3 of these goaltenders. It's going to be fun to watch.
So is that why you got rid of your Toronto Maple Leaf jersey? Because you know that the Leafs are possibly trading Frederik Andersen? Is that why you bailed on the Leafs?
Listen, Leaf fans, Freddie Andersen is not your problem.
Tell us, Scott Oak, what is the problem?
Well, Ron. Thank you, Ron.
Hey guys, just had some breaking news come through from the New York Rangers. They just welcomed Jacques Martin, or maybe it's Jacques Martin, as assistant coach.
Jacques Martin.
Yes, Jacques Martin.
Really? Mac?
Jacques Martin.
You're quite familiar with Jacques Martin. What do you think of that signing?
I like the signing. Jacques Martin, who I met when I was 16 years of age working at the Brockville Hockey School. He and I were instructors. He was on his way to St. Lawrence University to be a goaltender there. We met in Brockville Hockey School, and Jacques hired me to my first NHL assistant coaching job in 1986 when he was named coach of the St. Louis Blues. So I go back a long way with Jacques Martin, and it's a great choice. He's had a great career, and he's a good man. Good hire.
I think it remains consistent on where they stand. Of course, Lindy Ruff went on to get a head coaching job with New Jersey. So they replace one seasoned veteran with another.
Great hire. And you know what? The Rangers are doing it right now. Good on them.
Okay, Mac. So what do we got? We got Boston, Tampa at 7 p.m. tonight. Stars and Avs follow that at 9:45. Who's leaving the bubble, Mac, and who gets to stay and live another day?
I hate to say this because Boston Bruins have come back so many times, down to the Leafs, down to teams in battle back. You know what? I'm going to say the Bruins are coming back, and I'm going to say that Colorado. I'm thinking they're both going to be 3-2 series after tonight.
Wow. So we get to keep going.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, guys.
And I'm excited because the late game tonight is on here at 10:45 versus it coming on at 11:45. So I'm very excited tonight.
Jordan, are we offering a boost on the money line?
We are, yes. We're offering a bunch of stuff. We're offering a boost on the money line for Tampa Bay. The Harley promotion is still going on currently.
Yes.
So place a $1 bet on blitzbet.eu, Canadian depositors only. And is it a fat boy? I am unsure. Doug hopes it is, but we'll find out as we get some more information.
We know they're not cheap. Fat or not, they're not cheap. This bike, I think, is listed at maybe $35,000, $40,000. So whatever it is, it's fantastic. Mac, as a senior analyst on the Real Kyper at Noon show, I don't think you're eligible. But maybe we can get the winner to give you a free ride.
I'd love that. I mean, my dream was to get a ride on the back of Doug Gilmour's Harley, but never got that close.
Do you still have the basket on the front of your bike, or did you get rid of that?
With the lock going through the basket.
Oh, that's quite the visual.
I have an aerial with a flag on it too for senior citizens.
Mac, a tremendous start to the first day of the week and the last day of the month. Seriously, you've never had a month go this fast and enjoy being an analyst more than you have with the Real Kyper at Noon show. Is that correct, Mac? Tell us about your month.
I think our connection's getting bad. Doug, are you coming in?
Yeah. Can we check technical? Mac, why do you think I give you a day off on Tuesdays? We know it's the Big Brothers program where an old guy picks you up on Thursday, takes you to the park. I give you time off. You're
Nick,
good.
I had an 87 the other day to drop my handicap to 14. I come back yesterday with a 97.
Well,
how does that happen?
There's our next prize that we take a foursome to Cabin Links on you.
Cabin Links.
That's our next prize outside of the Harley. Doug Maclean, everybody, Summerside PEI's favorite son. Mac, we'll see you Wednesday.
Take care, man.
And for all of you, thank you for joining us. Start of the week. We'll see what happens going in tonight. Who stays, who goes? Let's see if Mac is right on the Boston Bruins. Do they have enough to prolong this series? For Nick Kypreos and everybody at linemovement.com, Real Kyper at Noon, thanks for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.